we need to transition our mindset because it is not about hacking something, it's about optimizing something. And people hear the word biohacking. What's the biggest misconception when it comes to peptides being lumped into just another hack? So we're going to be talking about peptides like BPC-157, MOTC, SS31, even some of these GLPs that you've heard about. Your body actually already produces them. I realized peptides weren't a trick, but a foundational tool for long-term optimization. Welcome to the Peptide Pulse, where precision meets power and power meets potential. In today's episode, what we're going to be talking about really is about peptides, that they are really the heart of bio-optimization. They're not just another biohack. In fact, when you listen to episode 1 and now you're here, I'll tell you, I am not a fan of the term biohacking. And there's a reason why, and I really want to go into like the definition and understanding where we've lived in such an industry where every single influencer is out there and they talk about biohacking this and biohacking that, where in all transparency, biohacking is literally just a quick fix. It's using gadgets, it's using one-offs. And in fact, most of these influencers, when you listen to them talk, they're transitioning constantly from one biohack to the next. This one is supposed to be the best, and then all of a sudden, wait, no, this one isn't the best anymore. It's the next one. And they continue to change their positions on the newest and greatest technology of whatever it is. And, in fact, one time I was speaking at a conference, and I actually was walking around the whole conference in my nice pink suit, and I was actually carrying a double-sided axe around with me. And everyone just kept saying, why in the world are you carrying an axe? And I was just actually happy that the hotel allowed me to do it. Security never stopped me, which makes me wonder and question how good the security was. But either way, I brought that axe up on stage, and I used that as a prop, and I used it as a prop the whole weekend, because really that in the realm of like regenerative medicine and the realm of people, even in hosting podcasts and doing all this information, it's all about the hack. And we need to transition our mindset because it is not about hacking something, it's about optimizing something. And so I've been utilizing this term of bio-optimization, which truly is about, it's integrating, it's layering, it's actually creating sustainable changes, sustainable performance, sustainable healing. It's about working with a system, not against a system. I mean, if we really want to go deep into this, we can talk about allopathic medicine and the industry that we live in right now. Traditional medicine is, in a sense, a biohacking system because they're using medications and drugs and even surgeries to hack a system, which is our body, to do what it wants it to do. And yes, we can also hack with natural things from, ozone therapy to cryotherapy. I mean, all these different things. Yes, we're hacking a system, but I think it's been missed so much in the industry right now that we need to begin to optimize things, reestablish communication, reestablish how our bodies are actually designed to function, heal, restore, and repair. And then from that, we actually get true human potential. And so that's really why I want to talk in this episode about really how do peptides play the role and how they are not just another hack into the system. They've been around for a long time. Over 100 years. In fact, most of you have heard of peptides. Insulin is one of the first. Oxytocin is another. So again, we're not trying to hack a system. We're trying to implement something into a system to create better communication, better organization on a cell-to-cell and an intracellular to intracellular level to create true health and healing. And that's really what optimization is increasing human potential through performance on a cellular level. And that's the beauty that we're going to get into here in a little bit. But I do love to go through, I'm going to go through some questions here because I do get asked a lot when I'm at conferences, when I'm speaking on stage. I get the question like, when people hear the word biohacking, and again, everywhere, what's the biggest misconception when it comes to peptides being lumped into just another hack? And I think the biggest misconception is that your body actually makes the peptides that we're talking about. So we're going to be talking about peptides like BPC-157, MOTS-C, SS31, even some of these GLPs that you've heard about, your body actually already produces them. So some of these other things that are hacks are not things that your body actually produces. Cryotherapy, it is in a sense a biohack. Your body doesn't create cryo. It doesn't create, well, actually I was going to go with ozone, but your body does create some ozone peroxidases and things like that, but I'm not going to go too deep in there. So yeah, that's why I don't lump it into biohacking, because your body produces this. We're utilizing it as an external source internally to re-elicit the responses that your body already has. And again, it's not that we have a lack of this, we just have an inefficiency of this. And if we can increase the efficiency, we begin to heal, restore, and replenish what has been depleted or been less efficient. So another question, a moment in my journey. So the question was, can I share a moment in my journey where I realized peptides weren't a trick, but a foundational tool for long-term optimization? That was a great question. And it actually took me back, because I was sitting here and I'm like, people want to think of peptides as a way of, in a sense, tricking the body into something. And that's not at all what we're doing. Again, tricking the body into do something means that the body didn't already know how to do it. And so why would we be tricking it into something when we can actually give it something that it, again, already makes? And the aha moment for me with this as a foundational tool for, again, that long-term optimization is I was working with a friend of mine, and I had recommended Epithalon for her, also sometimes known as Epithalon. And it really was because she had so much chronic damage, mold toxicity, and other health issues. And in that journey, I had her start in Epithalon it's a peptide that you take for DNA repair. It helps with telomerase activities. It affects the pineal gland. Has a whole other, plethora and pleiotropic effects within the system. But I guess I get surprised by peptides quite often, especially in the optimization side. And I know that sleep is one of the most important things that we can have to truly optimize our health. As much as we want to exercise and go and push ourselves, rest is just as important, and sleep is essential. I'm not a believer that a lot of sleep, like sleeping long every night, is the most essential thing, but I think it's the type of rest that we get, that deep sleep that we get. And the aha moment that I had was when she was taking Epithalon, and within 3 days, she calls me and she's like, my deep rest sleep went from like 30% up to, I think it was like 50%. And then it went up to 60%. That was just after 3 days. And like my aha moment there was, we're not just trying to repair damage that's been happening over years for her, but we're pushing into an area of now her sleep is being restored, and which means that has a whole multitude of benefits that's going to help her on her healing journey. So, and that creates longevity, better rest, longevity, healing, restoration. So I honestly believe with this that in going forward here, that we do have to, and getting back into like the biohacking versus optimization, I truly believe that biooptimization is going to outweigh, I guess, in a sense, the biohacking community and the push for biohacking in the future of health and longevity, because we can't sustain hacking a system. The system eventually will break down, or the system is eventually going to resist whatever that hack is. And where peptides come into play for this is, again, we're not trying to hack a system. We're just trying to increase an efficiency in a system that it knows what to do. And that's why I love the benefits of what peptides can bring and why they are so safe and why they're so effective. So it's not trying to implement something that's outside of the realm of what the body already knows. So, the other part is, when we talk about peptides, so I'm going to get into a few peptides and really how they do optimize the system, your body, your healing, your potential.
In wellness, every second counts. With Unify messaging, clinics connect with new leads instantly, turning inquiries into appointments faster than ever. Quick responses mean more patients and stronger growth. See how AI-powered speed-to-lead capabilities are helping wellness clinics thrive with Unify messaging. Visit us at unify360.com.
Again, we all have potential. We all have potential to heal better. We all have potential to sleep better. We all have potential to perform better, think better. I mean, we can go on and on. And when it comes to, I've seen transformed lives due to products like PT141, which was actually developed for females, for sexual libido, and helping to increase sexual activity for women that have had issues in that area. And it was FDA approved. We know that things like Cialis and Viagra for men, and everybody focuses on men and what they need, but I think it's truly detrimental to our society that we're not pushing and helping to have understanding that there is something out there also for women. I have 3 sisters. I have a stepsister. I married in a family of 3 girls. It's like, wait, everybody needs to know that there are things out there that can actually transition. And I've seen marriages changed based on peptides like PT141. And again, that's specific for things like sexual function, and creating connectivity between husband and wife. And it can go on with that. But again, that is a powerful peptide that optimizes a system that's not broken. And most of the time we think something's broken. For recovery and repair, things like BPC 157, TB 500, and even copper that support tissue damage. They support accelerating a process of healing. As we age, we have something called cellular senescence or cellular exhaustion. Our cells become exhausted. How many of you are listening right now? You're just exhausted. And that's not even just the muscle tissue trying to heal. It's just your whole body, your mental, your clarity. So how can we get into a system to enhance the effectiveness of that? And that's where peptides, again, like BPC 157, TB 500, that elicits natural stem cell production, that reduces inflammation in the site of healing. Chronic pain basically is just chronic inflammation. It's at a point that the body doesn't know how to repair or restore something, so it can't get the tools there that it needs. And so BPC 157 is incredible at that. It increases endothelial nitric oxide, gets more blood flow to those areas. TB 500 increases natural stem cell production, collagen repair, tissue repair, and then you can even add something like GHKCU, a copper peptide that helps again with collagen and damage and repair. And that kind of trifecta of those products are incredible. You then go into like the optimization of metabolism, body composition with the GLPs. They've been so popular, these GLP-1s, like semaglutide, tirzepatide, and now a massive game changer in the industry, retatrutide. I love that stuff right here, retatrutide. It's and this is an amazing formulation. We'll talk about the future of peptides here in a little bit, but Reta it's a GLP-3, affecting things. When we look at these, people talk about weight loss constantly. Just like I try to transition from biohacking to biooptimization, and I should say I'm not trying, this is what we're doing, is also thinking of the difference between weight loss and fat loss. Because if I asked a room full of people, would you rather have fat loss or would you have weight loss? Some people are going to look at me like I'm crazy, but there is a distinct difference between the two. Weight loss is losing everything. That's muscle tissue, that's fat tissue. Fat loss is just that. We want to lose fat, and there's ways to do that properly. And that's one of the reasons why I love retatrutide. Its ability to increase metabolism. I know people, even myself, I take retatrutide myself. It's not that I'm trying to lose fat. I'm not trying to lose weight, but I've been able to build muscle, gain muscle on peptides like this, these GLP-1s that we get so scared about, that we're going to have muscle deterioration and muscle damage. And it's only helped me to gain muscle and to have a better metabolism, increase my overall energy levels, and lose fat. I think that's important. Things like AOD as well. AOD is an incredible peptide that literally breaks down fat tissue, and then it doesn't allow new fat tissue to develop. It's a fragment of growth hormone that has all the benefits of fat loss without the growth factor portion of it that comes from things like tesamorelin, CJC, which are also there for body composition. Those help with natural growth hormone production, working on a pulsative level on the pituitary gland to naturally increase your body's ability to increase growth hormone. And so kind of going into that body composition realm there of optimization, many people don't realize research shows that by the time you hit 30 years old, your natural production of growth hormone diminishes by 10 to 15% every decade. So, I'm 65, all right? Nah, I'm not. If you're watching, I know for a second there you thought that. I'm actually 44. That's okay. And it's the bald head. People sometimes believe me. It's funny when I do that in a room full of like 100 people and physicians. They look at me with their heads kind of cocked, like, what? And then I let them know, no, I'm 44, but I still want to look like this when I'm 65. I not just want to look like this, I want to feel like this, because optimization is not just a look. It's not an external, it's an internal, it's a feeling. It's being able to overcome the deficit of degeneration for restoration. And that's what optimization is. And that's what peptides do, is they help you to overcome that deficit and to optimize the system. And so when it comes to body composition and understanding that, not only typically for men, women, testosterone levels drop, as in the hormones, progesterone, estrogen, all these things become wonky and in a sense misguided within our body because of internal, external toxins. Body composition is huge when it comes to these growth hormone secretagogues: tesamorelin, CJC, ipamorelin, sermorelin, MK677. So these growth hormone secretagogues, they're not pumping your body full of growth hormone, which is what like an exogenous growth hormone supplement or an injection would be. It's synthetic. It's like a testosterone, what comes like in an oil form. You just fill your system with that stuff. It just goes into the blood supply, and that's really where it stays. Well, when you utilize a peptide, it triggers receptors specifically either on the hypothalamus or the pituitary gland to naturally pulse and release your body's natural production of growth hormone. And if we know that we have these diminishing returns as we age, what if we could actually begin to elicit a natural pulse of that growth hormone again? And that's really what the peptides do. It's a natural pulse. It helps to home in and focus on that thing that we need. And from that, research shows the benefits of better sleep, better energy, better muscle density. So I don't like the term muscle tone. You're hearing all the time, I don't like certain terms. It's okay. It's just they're used way too much. And a lot of times so loosely, there's no definition for them because there's no such thing as actual muscle tone. There's muscle density. You can have also sarcopenia, or the loss of muscle tissue, especially as you age. Why do you think the elderly fall and break their hip? It's not that they fall and break their hip. Typically, they break their hip and then they fall. And so it's because their bone density diminishes, their muscle tone diminishes, and we have to be able to get up and move. And so all of this, when it comes to peptides, is about that communication. It's the movement of our cell-to-cell activation that peptides optimize within us. A couple more: cognition and mood, I think, are essential. Mental clarity for us in the realm of things like Alzheimer's and dementia, and how much more prevalent they're becoming today. There are peptides like Selank, Semax, cerebrolyasin, Dihexa that are incredible activators of eliciting responses of increasing things like brain-derived neural growth factor, increasing circulation and blood supply within the brain. They help with decreasing anxiety and stress levels naturally, instead of taking some of these dangerous medications like Adderall or Wellbutrin or some of these antidepressants, where we can naturally begin to produce serotonin and dopamine within the system. Little tidbit, this may be going off in a second on a tangent, but you realize that the majority of your serotonin and dopamine within your body actually comes from your gut, not your brain. But the drugs that you're taking, if you are on them, if they're putting on an SSRI or you're on some sort of ADD or ADHD, they're eliciting responses in the brain, not within the gut. So it's literally, they're like cutting off half of the system, and they're not even addressing the system that actually produces what you need to have the proper dopamine, serotonin receptor activation to actually feel well. It's a very messed up system. That's why so much research has actually shown regular exercise is better than any antidepressant, because it's actually activating and moving the body and creating change the way that it should, reconnecting the signals. So then you get into longevity, optimization of longevity, things like epithalon that we talked about before, because of its effect on DNA repair, telomerase activity. And what are telomeres? Telomeres are those things that basically are embedded within our DNA, that every single time a cell replicates, it cuts off a little bit of that telomere on the end of that telomere. And as your telomeres shrink with every cell replication, they get smaller and smaller. And then eventually when they stop, we die. That means the cell has died or the system has died. So think of telomeres. They look like these really cool. It's like a Y shape down and then a Y shape down like this. And then as they shrink, I tell people to think of it like a nylon shoestring if you were to burn the end of it, how it kind of shrivels up and goes down and slowly diminishes in its size. Telomeres do the same thing with every single replication. The other thing about cellular replication is the fact that each time it replicates, it loses just a little bit of that DNA, a little bit of the blueprint that your body once has. That's why we actually develop the wrinkles. That's why I developed the inability to heal and restore the way that we used to. So we really have to keep an understanding that, again, that cellular exhaustion, cellular senescence, or these dead and dying cells that our body are still pushing around that create inflammation, things like epithalon, MOTS-C, some of these peptides actually help cleaning up that system and repairing and slowing down that cell replication so that your body can literally pass on that blueprint to have a healthier cell for each replication process that it goes forward with. The peptides are incredible. And again, your body makes these. It's just our body isn't as efficient as we age in being able to utilize them the way that we should. And so that is why I love peptides. That is why it's so much fun, diving into the research and understanding how they work and how they function. It's just fun. And we jokingly say in the industry and the people that I work with, because I get asked all the time when I'm on stage or when I'm done and I'm talking to people out in the crowd, they'll say, well, could peptides help with this? And sometimes it's sleep. Sometimes it's with, a coronary artery disease. Sometimes it's the liver. Sometimes it's a tissue damage. And I jokingly always say, well, there's a peptide for that, because ultimately there is. Your body produces these, and there is a peptide for that, because peptides are the communication markers, the communication network of your whole system, neurological system, blood system, liver system, tissue system, every single one of them. So yeah, it's fantastic. It's phenomenal. I love it. But what I want to do next is I want to break some myths on, peptides, how they're not a biohack. Again, because we're going to hear all over the place. You're going to hear how to hack the system with peptides. Again, biohacks they're temporary tricks, and that's the best way to describe it. Biohacks are temporary tricks. Peptides, they are the signaling molecules. They do help restore, rebuild, and in a sense, they recalibrate the physiology on a cellular level. And what does that mean in recalibration? So in anything else, we have to recalibrate something when it's slightly off. I always get annoyed. Like I'll have a clock up on the wall, and for some reason it's like the second hand doesn't work quite well, and then the clock gets behind like a minute, and then a couple days later it's behind like 2 minutes, and then 3 minutes, and then 4, and then I'm late for everything. But I have to go back and I have to recalibrate. Sometimes it's just changing the battery, getting a new battery in so it stays up. And it moves the way that it needs to move. Engines can be recalibrated. Computers are recalibrated. Why do we recalibrate? Because systems change over time, and sometimes we need, in a sense, like a tune-up. And I think sometimes that's the way that peptides can work, is not necessarily that we're just doing a single tune-up on the body, but we are tuning up the signals within our system, and they are so specific. And you're going to hear me say this all the time, whether it's healing. So if I have an ACL tear or an MCL tear, I had a good friend of mine who had a shoulder damage that he had been suffering from for about 2 years. His shoulder would click and pop every single time he moved. He couldn't sleep on his side because of the pain and the discomfort. And it was affecting every little thing in his life, even to the point of being able to throw a ball with his kids. And so I said, hey, there's a peptide for that. And with that, I introduced him to BPC 157 and TB 500. And I said, it doesn't really matter where you inject this. It can be the belly or any of the sub-Q tissue. But he's like, no, I want to put it right here by my shoulder. And within a week, he was actually moving his shoulder around. It still had a click and a pop, but without pain. He was getting better rest. He was actually able to go out and throw the ball with his kids and have fun with his children. And when I begin to see changes in people's lives that don't just affect the pain that they have, what I call like the hot button or the thing that's like keeping them, why I love introducing this and bringing this information to you is because it's transforming the rest of his life. It's creating an actual change for himself in his rest. It's changing something for his family, because it's not fun to not be able to go out and play catch with your kids when they want to go play catch. And so, again, that's why this isn't just a quick hack. It's something that's eliciting a response within his system to allow him to heal, function, and restore. So, and they're also not shortcuts. They are, in a sense, catalysts. What's a catalyst? It's something that accelerates change. When we talk about that in chemistry and biology, it's a catalyst is something that you implement into something to make that change happen faster. That's what peptides do. Because right now, your healing, your restoration, your sleep, these things are not happening the way they used to, as quickly as they used to. Our skin isn't as tight as it used to be as we age. That's why we get the wrinkles. We just aren't keeping up with the damage or the deterioration that is called aging. And so I think it's a powerful message to understand that this, again, it's not a fad. It's not just something that's here to quickly come and go. This is something that's actually been around a very long time, since the early 1900s. It's been pushed back and tried to be hidden because you can't patent something that's natural. So we have three-letter entities that don't want to push this forward. We're told that there's not enough research or science behind it, when you can just go to PubMed, you can go to Journal of American Medical Association, you can go and research for yourself and find hundreds and hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of articles on different peptides and their efficacy and their safety. And the way that they work is so beautiful, because it elicits positive responses with very, very few side effects. Not saying that there aren't any, but it's much safer than the damaging pleiotropic or multifactorial effects that most of the drugs and medications today bring to our bodies, because drugs are pushing our body into something. It's making it do something that's not natural. And what do peptides do? They come in and they actually allow the body to naturally change. I always say that we live in a microwave society where people want change instantly. They want the pain gone now. They want the mental clarity now. They want the sleep now. They want the performance now. Any great thing that's ever come, really, when it comes to our health, to our wellness, or almost anything in life, what I've learned is it takes time. Anything takes time. You've got to restore properly, heal properly, lose properly, gain properly. And the longer it takes, a lot of times, the longer it lasts. And so that's why I love this.
Your reputation builds your practice. With Unify Reviews, automate review requests and respond effortlessly, turning every wellness experience into glowing 5-star ratings. Build trust, boost visibility, and grow your clinic's reputation with ease. Elevate your practice with Unify Reviews. Visit us at unify360.com.
I had a question come up on the differences, really, of, kind of like peptides not being a biohack. What does this look like? And one of the questions I had once from somebody was, how do you explain to a patient that peptides are about restoring balance and not forcing change? Well, I think I've hit on that pretty well a few times today, but it's helping patients and people understand that if they actually want change, number one, it's our job to let them know what the outcomes can be, the time frame that it takes. But again, nothing is forced when it comes to peptides. That's why you typically have to take them on a regular basis, on a daily basis. And because of that, we're getting small little responses over time, which elicits a very dramatic long-term effect. And again, whether people think they're a fad or they're not, I know that they're staying, because I'm staying, and I'm going to keep sharing this information so that everybody knows. I think that practical frameworks, if we're going to start talking about really peptides and where they're at, I think that there always has to be a baseline, and people understanding really what are peptides as a foundation. I've discussed this before. What's the difference between peptides or therapeutic peptides and, say, just the amino acids that you get off of the shelf, at the supplement store, or even proteins. It's because of their efficacy and their precision and their bioidentical makeup of what your body actually produces. And they are the true signaling molecules of the system. And then from understanding the baseline of what peptides are as the language of the body, it's like then bring in awareness, just like we're doing right here. We've got to bring awareness for people to understand. And then how do we integrate that into our healthcare system? How do we integrate that into the clinical setting so that people have access to something that can actually create change for their lives, that has less side effects and very, very efficacious results, and can be very, very safe. So once we're able to have that integration, then now we're able to start to optimize the human body, optimize the cell-to-cell communication and the language of which the body is actually able to have what it needs to, again, repair, restore, replenish, and have greater performance. So I think that that's some of the biggest things that we can be doing moving forward in really this peptide world. And then I think really what it gets into and where is this difference between biohacking and optimization, and why I feel that peptides are truly the forefront of ultimate optimization within our body and within the healthcare industry, is because of the innovation that's coming from what I'm seeing in the industry. Peptides have gone from just being injectables, subcutaneous injections. I can tell you the research that I found, about 67% of the people out there are either afraid of needles or don't like needles. Very few. There's a few. I was talking with somebody the other day. He's like, I actually enjoy the needles. I laugh every single time I get injected because I know it's a weird thing. He goes, but I constantly laugh. He's like, so I actually enjoy getting the injections. Some of the people that are most afraid of getting injections are some of the professional athletes that I've worked with. I mean, these guys that are defensive linemen that are 6'8" and 300 and some pounds, a needle that's, no bigger than the tip of a pen. They're literally running from. Well, not necessarily running, but yes, they kind of screech and go back into the corner. But really understanding that when we've gone from injections to then, capsules, and this change of the industry and understanding where we're going here, but even with encapsulation, even with, certain capsules, enteric-coated capsules, your body's only going to absorb maybe 6 to 12% of what you're actually taking in with an injection. And then there's been peptides that have been utilized for IVs. And now we're getting into things like troches, on the tongue tablet or strips, which have some efficacy. They're not the best, but they do have some efficacy. I think better than what we're seeing when it comes to capsules. But one of the biggest things I'm starting to see now is really true nano encapsulation, where we can actually take peptides of certain strand lengths and we can actually encapsulate them, protect them, and utilize those on a daily basis and see very efficacious results with that, literally eliminating the use of needles. And so that, again, there is new waves coming, new technology that's coming out. The other side of that is not just kind of, in a sense, throwing away the needle. It's that these peptides, because peptides are so fragile, you have to be careful. After you reconstitute or you put your backwater into them, you then have to refrigerate them, or else they become unstable or inert and they're not going to function as well. But we are now utilizing technology where we can actually have shelf-stable peptides that can sit on a shelf for 12 months and still be stable, can still be utilized every single day without an injection. And that's why I love this industry, because it's about innovation. It's about change. It's about finding new ways to offer this to people, and it's not going anywhere. And we don't have to hack a system to get optimal results. We can optimize a system, which is always going to give better results. And ultimately, that's why we're doing this. So, again, I truly believe, and I know that peptides are not a hack. I've experienced it too often. I've worked with too many clinics. I've seen too many people's lives changed utilizing peptides, even in conjunction with other modalities and therapies, to help optimize their system. And ultimately, it's because they are precision signals. They unlock the body's own ability for its biology and its chemistry to have optimum potential. And that's not a hack. That's actually biooptimization. And so, again, thank you so much for listening. I love this. This is fun for me to just share my passion and my heart, understanding that there are ways to optimize a system and not hack a system. So until next time, this is the Peptide Pulse, where precision meets power and power meets potential. I'm signing off. I am Dr. Adam Boender. I'm the peptide researcher, and I'll see you next time.